Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soulful Abundance with Chris Williams. I'm Chris Williams. I'm so excited to share my friend Mary Lou here today to talk all about her book, Cementing Change. Mary Lou, thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm so excited for our listeners to hear all about it.
Thank you, Chris. And again, thank you for the opportunity to talk with your listeners and to engage with you in this conversation. I'm very excited about the book.
Oh, yay. So tell us a little bit about you, who it is that you serve, how it is that you help, kind of like give us the backstory that brought us to you creating this amazing book.
Yeah, so the backstory is I spent 40 years of my career in the corporate arena, and about 35 of those handling employee communications, helping employees in large organizations, global organizations, understand strategy and how their work aligns to that. And there was never a day that I was doing communications work that the organizations were not going through some sort of major changes.
Mm.
We're transforming all of the time, whether it's leadership changes, mergers, acquisitions, divestitures, even crisis situations.
Mm.
Just they're an immediate change that organizations have to deal with. And over my career, I started to not only personally feel that there were some times that things leaders were doing in organizations that just were not sitting well, and we're having a hard time getting myself and employees kind of over the change hump, right?
Mm.
And then over during the course of my career working with leaders, I started to develop this sort of system for how to manage communications better in organizations so that they organization and employees not only get through the change, but they prosper through it and they
Mm.
actually achieve the goal they're intending to achieve with the change. The truth is most organizations don't have that success. Most of them fail.
Mm.
And
Mm.
so the failures in the, you just think of the time and the energy and the lost productivity that leaders experience. And it's just like, it's a lot of money and time and effort to put on the
Yeah.
table not to win. And
Yeah.
so over the years, I've had discovered a system or a framework, as I call it, for helping leaders communicate better in times of change, because most of the reasons those failures happen lead to some sort of communication gap.
Mm.
Since that was my area of expertise, I created this system and I started talking about it, and people were like, that framework, you've got something there. I think you can do
Mhm.
something with that. And
Mhm.
so I
Mhm.
started talking about it, and I did retire a couple of years ago and thought, I need to do something to give back, to teach. And this
Mhm.
framework kept coming up as I meditated about what do I want to do next in my life.
Mhm.
And so the book is really designed for leaders and communications professionals, but really any human being who's trying to affect a change in their life and is tired of failing,
Mm. Yes.
tired
Yeah.
and afraid of change and resists it, and they self-sabotage and they don't even realize it. And there's a recipe that I can share, that I share in the book, that can help you make that happen with greater effect and much less stress and anxiety. So
Yeah.
that's what the book is really about. Yeah.
I love that. Cementing change. It's almost like an oxymoron, right?
Mm.
Because change is always present, right? The
Right.
only thing constant is change, right? And yet we
Yes.
don't want anything to actually move. Right? I think that's so funny.
Right.
But I think that when we are trying to create transformation, in whether it's in our lives, in our habits, or in businesses, or things like that, getting that to stick I've seen that, be a really hard place, whether or not, again, lifestyle habits or health habits or work habits or
Yeah.
whatever. So, well, I would love to hear more about your framework and kind of like where were the places that you noticed? You said communication,
Hmm.
what was the places that you saw people or corporations bumping up against that you're like, oh, okay, like let's start here.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for the question, because in order to fix the problem, you need to first identify what it is, right? And
Yeah.
so even in the research in my book, as I was testing, is this I call it a 4 C's change framework. I'll explain that in
Mhm.
a minute. Is it still valid today? Are those problems
Mhm.
that I'd experienced still happening out there? And so that I looked at a bunch of different research, and there's, the top 10 reasons why things are not working the way they want, the top
Mhm.
5 things leaders need to avoid. And in all of that research, there were 4 themes that kept coming up. And the
Mm.
first one is that when leaders, and even yourself, when you're trying to move through a change, there's a lack of clarity around what exactly is it that you want to change. What
Yeah.
is it? Why is that change necessary? How is the change going to impact either employees or others around you if it's a personal change? What's in it for you? What's the benefit? What's the vision that you're looking for on the other side? And you can use a lot of words to describe and explain that. And it's very challenging to get crystal clear about what that is. And it's challenging to convey it to other people in simple terms that they can understand and relate to. That's that,
Mhm.
but not being clear is the number one thing that continued to come up. The second thing that comes up is that whether it's leaders or individuals, as you start to think about, now I've made a decision, I want to make a change, I might even have clarity around what it is, you want to go right to implementation, and you forget that the intelligence of employees and other people and the people in your network can help you move from point A to where you are to where you want to go. And so
Mhm.
without that, there's a disconnection. Like, people are
Mhm.
disconnected. I don't understand what this is all meaning. I don't know how I can contribute. I'm not sure
Mhm.
how I can help. And so they say, you know what? Go do your thing. I'll come on only when I have to. So you don't get buy-in. And
Right.
so you've got employees at your disposal that can help you solve those problems that your change is designed to fix, or
Mhm.
opportunity that you're trying to take
Mhm.
advantage of. And when you don't have that, that's another lack of, like, listening and just getting insights from and perspectives from other people.
Yeah, I want to go back just to the clarity first, just
Sure,
because I
sure.
think that this is so important. I think about, and I was actually just running a call with our Activate Abundance Academy clients when we're planning the next month. We
Mhm.
talk about our marketing and our sales and our profit plan, right? And it's true, if we don't know what it is that we want, it's kind of like I like the analogy that we've gone to Starbucks and we're just kind of driving around the parking lot, but we don't really know what we're going to go into order. So, like, we're
Mhm.
there, but we're not actually going in to get what it is that we want. And I think that that is simple, but I really think it's missed. So I love that you're starting with
Mhm.
clarity, because you have to make sure that you are actually, it's kind of like, oh gosh, what's his name? Stephen Covey, start with the end in mind, right? Like, where is it that
Mhm.
you want to
Mhm.
go?
Right.
What is it that you want? We have to be clear there so that we can then reverse engineer the
Yeah.
process. So, yeah,
Yes, yeah, yeah, and
so good.
it's absolutely key. And I think that even if there's sort of a conceived notion about it,
Mhm.
articulating it winds up becoming challenging for people. And I've
Yeah,
experienced this in the coaching too. And you've asked the
yeah,
question, in 10 words or less, what do you do
yeah,
and who do you serve, right? And it's like,
yeah,
wow, that should not be difficult, but it's simplifying that and getting to the real core of it is a challenge. And I think that's why it gets missed, because it's hard work. It's
yeah,
hard to distill it down into what's the
yeah,
real, simple way of talking about what it is you do, and why it's, and who you serve and how you do it. Um,
yeah,
so those are two. There's two
mm,
more
yeah.
sort of primary reasons why these failures continue to happen. The third one, and it's kind of interesting, is that in the company context, most
Hmm.
employees have some pretty strong affiliation with where they work. They
Hmm.
done work that they're proud of. They use the products and services that the company offers. They have a best friend at work, sometimes a family member at work, and then the company comes in and disrupts that and says, "We're going to
Mm.
change that." The department your friend worked in is now, restructured, and or you're reporting to a new boss, and it's like if you have teenage children and it's
Upset. Yeah.
Saturday and it's the day to go in to find their clothes to do the laundry, and there's a cyclone in the room when you walk in, and then you can't resist but starting to, like, put some things away and organize it. And they
Yeah.
come in behind you and they're like, "Mom, what are you doing? Like, don't mess with my stuff. Like, leave my stuff
It's
alone."
so
And
true.
so if people feel like you don't care about what they care about, why should you care about what they care about? Why should you care
Yes.
about what they want to change? And it's
Yeah.
interesting, even if you're trying to change something in your life, you have to remember that you are one domino in the row, and there's lots of people who are counting on you, relying on you, who love you and care for you. So if you're going to make a change and discard how they might feel, you may not change the decision, but caring about how that decision might impact other people often gets missed. And when I
Yeah.
go into schools and I talk at the college level with students studying communications, it's interesting. The professors usually come back to me and tell me, Mary Lou, the one thing that they're shocked by or just a little jarred by is that you're talking about caring in the workplace.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, people are still human beings. They don't leave their hearts home when they log
Hmm.
onto their computer or come into the office.
Right.
They bring their whole person. And sometimes
Yeah.
I think, leaders and even managers sometimes forget that their workers, unless they are machines or bots or AI
Yeah.
agents, are
Right.
human beings first, and then
Yeah.
their workers second. So that's a piece that gets missed a lot. And it
Yeah.
and it makes people feel indifferent. It's like, well, if you don't care, why don't I care? And then
Yeah, totally. That shifts the whole culture, doesn't
it
it? Like,
does.
oh,
Absolutely.
wow. Absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then the last one is that leaders also forget that they've probably gotten to that level of status, that leadership level, because they're risk takers. They
Mm,
step out of their comfort zone more frequently. They're more comfortable doing that. They're willing to sort of step out on a ledge, make a decision, and move. But the
mm-hmm,
couple of hundred or thousand people that work for them are not all like that.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of wherewithal to stop doing something and you're familiar with and move into something that you're not.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes they underestimate the change fatigue that people are experiencing. And you experience this in your
Right.
personal life as well, right?
Right.
And change fatigue is a real thing. In some
Mm,
larger organizations, employees are experiencing 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or more large scale changes at the same time.
wow.
If you
That's
think, let's just,
incredible.
just think about it. They change a policy, they change a practice. There's a leadership change, an organizational structure. They're divesting a business. They're starting up a new product line, new technology, new
Mm-hmm.
trainings, like whatever those things are. And so people are trying to do their day job with all of this noise going on. And then they go home and life happens. I
Yes.
mean, is there any wonder why people are burning out
Wow.
at levels that they are, and that there's so many, such a prevalence of increasing mental health issues these days? There's so much pressure on people to handle like all this popcorn
Yes.
that's like sitting
Oh my
around them
gosh.
all the
Yes. And
time.
all of those,
Yeah,
yeah, all of those outside things directly affect your nervous system. And so you're
absolutely.
trying to do your regular job, but then your nervous system is on high alert. I mean, how can employees actually even work
Yeah.
effectively in
Yes.
that?
I think
Wow.
sometimes that the just an understanding of the appetite for change
Mm,
needs to be considered. You may continue to move forward, but maybe your
mhm.
approach will be different.
Yeah.
Maybe the how you do it will be different. And that's where we get
Yeah.
into the four
The
C's change
phase.
approach and the recipe,
Yeah.
because the how can make a difference in how
Hmm.
you manage through the change and not only just get through it, but get through it in a way that's less anxious, less anxiety, less stress and a better chance of
Yeah.
success. Yeah,
Holy
that's,
cow, this is so
yeah.
good, Mary Lou. Yeah, I can only imagine because, I think businesses do think that they're making this change to benefit the bottom line or
Mhm.
benefit, the profits or, but they forget that their people are also having experiences within that change. And if they want that change to stick, they have to work with their people
Right.
to probably calm that nervous system too
Yeah.
and say, okay, well, do they have what it is that they need to effectively, execute this change
Hmm.
versus just,
Hmm.
okay, we're changing now. Everybody do this thing differently, and then it doesn't stick. Yeah,
No, it doesn't. And then, and I think the thing is that people, employees, especially employees, they tend to start getting resentful. Like,
sure.
and they lack the trust because they're just feeling like you're just using us as
Yeah.
instead of really like employing us, right?
Yes.
It's a different,
Yes.
you feel very different in terms of what's expected of you and how you're treated at the workplace. And that
Amazing.
I think has just gotten lost.
Yep.
And it hasn't gotten lost anywhere, everywhere. There are some
Yeah.
companies who are really good at this.
Yeah.
And but more often than not, especially in the conversations I have with the women that I'm coaching through career transitions, almost all of them are talking about some toxic work environment
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and a situation where, they lost their job and they were told at Wednesday at 10 o'clock and 10:15, they're being escorted out of the building. I mean, it's just the way people get treated is
Wow.
just it doesn't have to be that way. I mean,
Yeah.
unless you're in a high security role where they're concerned that you're going to, cyber attack the White
Right.
House or something, most people don't have roles like that,
I
honestly.
know. Oh
But
my
if you're
gosh.
treated right on the exit, They won't bash your company. Your reputation will stay, they may not like the
Yes.
decision, but
Yeah.
if you treat them well and support them through the transition in a way with dignity and respect, they're going to respect that about you. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't like what happened, but they treated me well.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I
takes
love
one
that.
social post, right, to take an
Hmm.
organization through a reputation nightmare that can cost them thousands, if not millions of dollars and time and
Wow.
effort and energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my
So,
gosh. That's
yeah.
crazy. So what is your 4C framework? Let's chat about that.
So let me tell you about the 4C framework. It has two parts, like every recipe does. You've got the ingredients. So I'll start with those are the 4Cs. And then I'll just briefly touch on the what I call 12 prosperity principles, because
Great.
like everything else, a good recipe only works if you have the right ingredients and
Yep.
and you've got the right process and you use
Yes.
it over and over again. You
Yep.
know what
Yep.
it's like to have a system,
Yep.
because you've got systems
Absolutely.
that work, right?
Yes.
So the first C in the framework, you will not be surprised, is clarity.
Hmm.
Know and stick to the goal. And there's two parts to that. The first is to be, again, very crystal clear about what your intention is around what the change is.
Hmm.
Importantly, Simon Sinek will tell you why it's necessary, what problem are we solving, or what opportunity are we looking to take care of? How is it going to impact your people? What's
Hmm.
going to be different for you? What's going to be expected of you? What's in it for you? What's the
Hmm.
benefit on the other side of the change when the change is affected? And how are we going to support you to get,
Hmm.
from the bridge from point A to point B? So that's all part of the clarity piece. The other piece is sticking to your goal. And there's a lot of waffling that goes on with organizations. Sometimes they go out with, here's what we're going to do, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. And I understand sometimes you need to adapt because things do
Right.
change, as you said, all the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
if you're clear about that end goal and that vision, the path may have to jigger around a little bit and squish and squirrel, but the main goal should be there. And even
Hmm.
if you think about individuals, if anyone sets New Year's resolutions,
Hmm.
there's a day in January called Quitter's Day. It's the second Friday of January,
Wow.
because by the time people set their New Year's resolution, they don't even hold it for 2 or 3
Right.
weeks, because they give up too soon. They're not
Yeah.
willing to do what you have to do to make
Right.
the change. And I think
Right.
the thing that just to back up for 1 second, it's really important to understand that people generally tend to resist change. We're
Hmm.
wired to do that. Like, our brains prefer predictability.
Yeah.
They
Yeah. Because
prefer
safety. Yeah.
safety, familiarity. I know
Yeah.
what to expect because this is
Yep.
how it's been all the while. And
Right.
so a change signals like danger ahead
Yeah.
potentially. I don't know what to expect. I don't know, what could be coming. And you start to just immediately physiologically you resist it, because
Hmm.
that's how we're wired. And
Yeah.
even in behavioral science, they'll tell you people will fear, they will do more to avoid loss than they
Yep.
will to,
Get the benefit.
get the benefit. And
Hmm.
because why is that? Because change is hard. Like, giving
Yeah.
something up that is difficult. And so I
Yeah.
think leaders just sometimes forget that this churn is happening, times 5 or 6 or 7 or 8. And it's just a lot to absorb. So that
Yeah.
clarity piece and sticking to it is just really all connected to this constant drumbeat of what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's in it for you, how are we going to help you. It has to keep happening and going through the entire change journey, whatever that is.
Hmm. Hmm.
So that's the first ingredient, is clarity. The second one is connection.
Hmm.
Engage and involve others in your change journey. And a lot of people think they like to go at it alone, especially
Hmm.
individuals. It's like, I got this. I don't want to ask for help. But
Yep.
even leaders are sometimes not, I don't want to say afraid, but they avoid telling the whole story.
Right.
Or even as an individual, you've been thinking about or contemplating a change for a while. You might be following people, doing some research, hiring consultants, whatever. And you've been doing that for months and months and months. And then you make your decision, and now it's time to communicate it. Your employees don't have all that context.
Hmm.
They don't have all that background.
Yep.
And without that, they're like, I think there's more to the story. Like, I don't trust this.
Yeah.
What else is happening underneath? What do I not
Yeah.
understand? Because if they understand more of that, they'll be like, well, I talk to customers who complain about that all the time. I have an idea, or I have a
Yeah.
thought, or have you considered this? There
Hmm.
might be a blind spot that could be opened up. So if you engage and involve your people, then they feel like something isn't happening to them, but that's
Hmm.
part of the change, and something's happening for them. and
Yeah.
they've been part of it. And when you're
Yeah.
part of something, you've got the buy-in, and you're much more what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to be much more inclined to go along and make it happen,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think of that as like, the lone wolf syndrome, right?
Yeah,
It's like we are trying to do it on our own, but we really are. I mean, we can only go as far as we can go, right? When
yes.
we read the label, if we're in the bottle, we can't read the label, and we need that support, the structure, even some accountability to
Mhm.
guide that process. So
Yeah,
I love
good
these.
point. Good point. So
Yeah.
that's the second C. The third ingredient is caring.
Mm-hmm.
That we talked about before, caring about the impact. And sometimes that just means listening to your people, listening to your employees, listening to your network, your family, your friends around you, and help them understand, what it is you're doing, why you want to do it, and then listen to and watch how they
Mm-hmm.
react to that.
Mm-hmm.
You may not change your decision, but now you have a better understanding and a better appreciation for what they're going to experience through the change you're imposing or that
Yeah.
you are moving forward with. And when you have that sort of mutual understanding, you're going to have less resistance from
Mm-hmm.
other people or less noise from other
Yeah.
people in terms of what you're trying to get done. And when employees know that you do really care about how they're experiencing this change and that you're going to help them through it, that's a win. They're going to be
Yeah.
more loyal, and they're going to
Yeah.
say much better things about you in terms of as an employer than if you
Yeah.
don't do that.
Totally.
The
Totally.
other piece of caring, and I think you'll really appreciate this, is that you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Whether
absolutely.
you're leading through an organization, you're leading the organization through change, or you're trying to drive a change that's really important to you personally. If you need to have the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual stamina to
Hmm.
move through it, because as I said earlier, change is hard, and
Yeah.
you're going to have the chutzpah, if you will,
Yeah.
to continue to
Great
follow
word.
what you're
Hmm.
trying to do, because life is going to throw you derailers on a regular basis, probably once every 15 seconds. And so
Hmm.
if you don't say, I'm staying focused here, this is important to me, then you're going to get derailed, and you don't want to do that. So you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah.
I think it was Stephen Covey in Seven Habits of Highly Effective People said that the most important thing is that the most important thing remain the most important
Most
thing.
important thing.
And having
Yeah.
that applies to clarity, but it also applies to how you handle yourself, and just remembering always what's most important to me. And then
Hmm.
that helps you clear the noise around a little bit so that you can stay a little focused on what's really important to
Yeah.
you. So that's the third ingredient. And the fourth ingredient is courage,
Mm.
because you've got to take some risks, you've got to take action. And I
Yep.
strongly encourage that everything you do is legally, ethically, and morally right.
Yep.
Because one change you don't want to have is how to learn how to live in prison. Like nobody
Yeah.
wants
I
that.
don't want that change.
Nobody wants to go to jail and do you just stay keep it clean and do the right thing. You can't go wrong if you do the right thing. And I think
Yeah.
one of the things about courage is that it's okay to fail. You have
Hmm.
to be okay with
Yep.
failing, and failing is not a black X. Well,
Yep.
failing is a learning opportunity. I don't remember
Yeah.
what athlete it was, but I believe he said something like, I never lose. I either win
Or
or
learn.
learn.
Yes. I wonder if that was
I
Michael Jordan.
I think
I don't
it might have
know.
been Michael Jordan. I've tried to find an attribution to it, but it's not.
Yeah.
A couple of different names come up, but it's really very true, and that's a mindset shift.
Yep. It is.
Especially if you're like off on your own now trying to do something new for yourself. That's a mindset shift, because you will have setbacks. Expect
Yeah.
that. The world and
Yes.
the universe is not perfect. I mean, God
Yep.
puts all these challenges in front of us so that something better comes out of it. But sometimes when you're in the muck of it, you're
You
like,
forget.
I just would rather go like crawl in a hole right
Yeah,
now.
I know,
And
right? Well, and
and
that's where the
maybe for
support
me,
comes in too,
yeah.
right? Like that's why we
Mhm.
don't try to do this on our own
Right.
because sometimes we just need somebody to like talk truth over us too. And when you've got a support system
Yes.
to
Yeah.
be like, hey, let's look at it from this perspective, or let's, see where there's a gift in this that is actually propelling you forward into even a better
Mhm.
opportunity than you
Mhm.
realized.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. So
love that.
that's now that's the framework. So it's clarity, connection, caring, and courage.
Love
And
it.
it's relatively simple, just it's easy to remember. I wanted to, when I
Yes.
first sort of designed the labeling for this approach was very quick backstory. Our I was working at Bayer at the time, and we had a significant change program that I was leading the communications for on top of my regular work. So this was a project, and we were consolidating 5 of our offices into one new space. And
Hmm.
about the second year into the decision, they decided that moving 2,500 people from New York and New Jersey into one location, that was a big disruption already as it was.
Wow. Yeah.
Most of our employees, 65 or 70% of them, were in private offices.
Wow.
Well, the new space we were moving into was not going to have room for 2,000 people to have private offices. So we
Right.
were moving to a 100% open workspace plan. And
Wow.
that today is very common. But then in 2012 or 2011, this was like, are you kidding me? And
Yeah.
it was the first office of that Bear had that was going to this new design
Wow.
globally.
Wow.
So huge, huge, huge change. And so as we were taking our people through using all of these approaches, this is actually where this came from. I was asked to speak at an event to talk about the success of this program after we won like the Employee
Yeah.
Communications Program of the Year award type of thing.
Amazing. Congratulations. That's
Yes,
so
it was
amazing.
at Jumbotron in New York City and everything. It was really a very cool and very prestigious award for us. And so I started getting invited to come speak to communicators about what we did. And I was sitting there about a month before the presentation, and I thought, gosh, I've got to get my act together. How am I going to talk about a 3-year change program in like
Hmm.
40 minutes, including Q&A, that is easy to remember, easy
Hmm.
to apply, like easy to use, and easy to share? Because most people don't bring their whole team to conferences. There's usually one person or two that goes. So
Yeah.
I just sat down one day with a big legal pad, and I just started writing all of the things that we did over that I could remember over the last 3 years. I went for a long, long walk. I grabbed a big glass of iced tea, and I sat down and I said, all right, what is this showing me? What is this telling me? And I started to sketch
Yeah.
some of these themes. And I just remembered situations in large change management team meetings or 30 people in the room, where we often, as the communicators, myself and my team, would say, all right, hold on a second, guys. Let's remember what we're here to do. Let's go
Yep.
back and get clarity again. Let's remember what our goal is. Okay.
Yep.
All these
Yep.
great ideas, put them in the parking lot for now.
Yep.
We
Yep.
got
Yep.
we got some
Yep.
stuff to do. Let's remember, right? And then it was the engagement, involving and engaging our employees, especially the naysayers and the fence sitters. It's like, well,
Hmm.
let's let's bring you in under the
Yep.
hood, help us get some things done, and then you learn more about what's really happening. So
Yeah.
so that's how the whole, and caring, my God, the things we did for our employees, they should be kissing the ground for everything we did to try to help them through this. And then a
That's
lot of times
amazing.
we had to also be the rock in the road
Yeah.
and have the courage to stick up for our people. Say, our employees are saying this, we can't do this. This is not going
Yeah.
to work. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's the courage too. The courage isn't
Yeah.
just necessarily taking the step forward, but it's stopping the train wreck
Yeah.
that you
Totally.
see coming down the road. So
Yeah.
that's where this whole framework came from, and this whole approach came from. And so it was an interesting experience for me to label it this
Mhm.
way. But I remember a couple of people coming up to me and saying, "You should copyright that." This was
Yes.
years ago, more than 10 years ago. I said, "Copyright it." This just came out of my brain on a Sunday afternoon. They're like, "No, you've got something there."
Yes.
It is
Yes.
simple, but it also is
Well, it's
challenging.
a process, it's a process that works, and it's a process
Yeah.
that came from something that works, which is amazing. I love how, processes typically, reverse engineer
Mhm.
how it happened, just like you're like, okay, how do I like, bring this together to
Yeah.
put this into a process? And yeah, I love this framework. And the framework also, I mean, I love it because I think that so many people could use it just for themselves too, right? Like these four
Yes.
C's could be attributable to not just a corporation or a team, but also, getting clear on what your goal is and, creating the clarity and the going through the four C's on your own. I think that would be really, really helpful for individuals as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that you bring that out, Chris, because the second half of the recipe is all about the individual.
Mm,
Because as I was talking with people, telling them about the book, interviewing leaders for the book,
hmm.
as I was thinking about going in and counseling communications teams and leaders on this more and more, it became clear to me that organizations don't change themselves.
Yep.
People lead and
Yep.
change organizations. So if the
Yep.
change is going to start, it starts with you. It starts with the leader. So
Yeah.
that's where the coaching came in, because I
Mhm.
began to start coaching using this framework as an approach to help people move through whatever change that was for them. And I thought to myself, well, that's really working. And then that's when I realized that I really like coaching more than consulting and advising.
So
And
fun. I
so
know, right?
so here we are. I got trained as a coach, and that's where I found my true fulfillment. Is really comes from those coaching conversations, helping
Yeah.
people clear this out for themselves and for
Yes.
whatever change it is that they're trying to go through. Most of them are career transitions, frankly,
Yep.
that most of the people who are attracted to me as their coach, but it really applies for people. And so once
Mhm.
I had this opportunity to test the framework for individuals, said, well, this is really working. And then I thought about it and I said, when my husband and I bought that 1965 Thunderbird convertible, we used this framework. Of course, we used this
Interesting.
framework.
Wow.
When we decided to buy this house, we used this framework. That was
Yep.
21 years ago, 23 years ago or
Wow.
something. It's just, as I reflected back on how many times I used this approach to help us move through a change, all of these elements, when they were systemized, came into play. They all come into play.
That's so
So yeah, at
cool.
the individual level, it absolutely
I
applies.
can't wait to get the book.
Oh,
I am
thank you.
so excited. I'm going to be getting it. I love it. I love it. I know my husband is going to love this too, for his company too. So I am so, so excited. Mary Lou, this has been amazing. So we are popping the link below. So if you are listening to us on iTunes or Spotify or YouTube or Substack, like definitely check the description below. We're going to definitely have the Amazon link. And then Mary Lou, how else can people get in touch with you if they're going through a career change, if they want to, connect with you and learn more about how they can learn from you? Where can they do that?
So my website is the best place to reach me. It's www.helppeopleprosper.com. You can go
Mm,
and connect and let's talk, and I'm happy to meet with anyone. I also have some tools available for people who are in career transition that you can
mhm.
download for yourselves, or if you're a leader going through change, there's a couple of free tools available for you to explore and test and play a little bit with the framework. And then
Amazing.
that's the best way to reach me, through my website.
So good. And we will absolutely pop those links down there too. Mary Lou, this has been amazing. Is there anything finally that you would love our listeners to know about change that you think is a good golden nugget for them to take away?
Yeah, I think the thing I would say is that you can make any change that you want to make. You can do it. Bury the words I can't. It is
Hmm.
possible, and it is now a little simpler. And what this framework will help do for you is keep you grounded, because
Yeah.
change can be a difficult thing. And if you have these four little elements in front of you all of the time as your guidepost to help you plan your journey, that's what I would love for you to have an experience with and for you to share with others.
Yes, you guys go get this book. This sounds amazing. And I love that it's four, right? It's not like 52 steps to make change stick, right? It's like four. I can do four. Yes, absolutely. Mary Lou, this has just been so awesome. I am so, so glad to have had you on our podcast and our show today. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me again. It was really a delight and an honor. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. We will see you next time.